What's the quickest you've noped out of a job? I worked in a Claire's for one day. At the end of the shift, she asked me to put a bucket load of tiny earring packages back on the walls. A few hours later I finished, and apparently misplaced a few of them, so she threw all of them on the floor and said to do it again. Nope. Oh, come on, she's just trying to make you feel more busy. I won't pay you to design that logo, but when my friends ask who did it, I'll tell them, and you'll get more work that way. Nope. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is every artist's favorite type of client to come across. When I was 16, I had an interview at a local pizza place in a not-so-good part of town. I was hired, and as I was walking out, two guys came in and robbed the place. The manager gave them the money in the register, and they ran out. I looked at him, and he said, "You get used to it." I never went back. You know, it's kind of funny to think that there are people out there that basically their entire income is just, oh, it's time to go rob that place again, and we'll just get away with it because lots of cities will just do nothing about it. Mine had to be when I was 18 and working at Blockbuster. I was helping the manager during the before open shift, getting new items stocked on the shelves that came in that morning. My mom called me and told me that my dad was having a heart attack and that she was panicking while waiting for the ambulance. Why did she call me at work to tell me this? The Blockbuster I worked at was in a strip mall area behind my cul-de-sac. My house and the Blockbuster was separated by a small alley and a 3-minute walk. I told my manager what was happening and asked if I could leave to help my mom while they waited for the ambulance. She said no. I just stood there looking at her, thinking she couldn't be serious. I would be gone for all of 10 minutes and be back helping her if needed. She stressed how important it was to get things done that needed to be done, and I could only leave if I called around to the other workers and found someone to come in and cover me while I was gone. I took off my name tag and slammed it on the counter and walked out. I never went back for any reason. For any who might wonder, my dad came out fine and was in the hospital for a few days. Yeah, it kind of seems like there are some people out there that don't understand severity of emergencies. And maybe they're so used to just hearing made-up excuses that they're just like, nope, all that matters is that you get the work done right. I was 22, living in New York City, young and dumb, and got an interview for a so-called job in finance. I was invited for the interview to a big fancy hall in a midtown hotel. There had to be a couple hundred people there. Well, the lights dim, the projector goes on, and the guy starts talking about money and money management. Then a single human icon appears on the screen. Then 2 under the single one, and then 3 under those 2. Oh man, it's a pyramid scheme. I walked right out. Screw Primerica and their hiding under the city umbrella logo. Well, it wouldn't be a job thread without at least one of these. So at the interview, they were late, no one knew where I was supposed to be, and as the interview went on, it became very clear that what was advertised as a programmer position was actually tech support. Well, to a computer illiterate person, they're basically the same thing. It was a liquor store in a not-so-good part of town. Part of the orientation included advice on keeping the pervs away from the dirty magazines. If you don't, you'll find them jacking off back here. And how to use the shotgun by the register when, not if, the store gets robbed. It's better if they're not around to tell their side of the story. Nope. See, I honestly wonder why places like that even just bother staying open. Like, there cannot be good enough profits to put up with that. I once saw a Craigslist ad for a stereo salesman. I showed up to a warehouse where a bunch of dudes got into a minivan. The owner told me to go on a run and see how it is, and then talk about the job. Turns out all these guys did was lie and con. They would go up to strangers and say, "Hey man, my cousin got this stereo, but he just got arrested and I don't need it. It's worth $500, but I'll gladly sell it for $200. Then use pushy tactics to get people to go to the ATM and give them money. The system was a piece of crap off-brand, and I overheard the owner saying in bulk it only cost him $20 to buy. Yeah, I noped out of this pretty quickly. I also called the police. This was in 2010. You know, that's pretty clever to go onto Craigslist and say, we need a stereo salesman. Really just somebody to go and con a bunch of random people. I had a job in a salad plant, for those bags of salad mix a lot of restaurants use. I was there for 2 weeks coring lettuce, in front of a conveyor belt, 8 hours a day, pick up a head, slam it, pull the core, put it down, next. You talk to your coworkers or you plot the downfall of Western civilization. One really sweet lady had been there for 10 years. 10 years on the lettuce line. She got called into the office and was gone for about half an hour. She said, "I won't be here tomorrow. I got promoted." I asked what she'd be doing. Cabbage. I didn't quit. I wished her well, dropped my stuff, and walked out. I feel bad about not quitting, but I was young, and, well, 10 years? That was 28 years ago. Had I stayed, I might be up to carrots by now. I sometimes wonder how my life would be different had I stayed, and in those moments I celebrate every decision I've ever made. See, whenever people complain about automation taking out existing jobs, I kind of just think of jobs like this, and I'm like, do you really think these jobs are better not being automated? I worked in a bakery. It was my first day, so I get there in the morning to meet everyone. Then they have me grease up baking trays for the others to fill. I lift up the first tray and like 10 to 15 cockroaches just scatter everywhere from under the tray. I tell the guy showing me the work that there were cockroaches and he just shrugged. This was all in the back store. Customers were about 10 feet away. So I tell the guy that I'm not feeling too well after about an hour of doing that, and I head to the bathroom. When I came out, I told him I couldn't do that job, and he told me to get a real job then. So I left and got myself a proper job. So did they just admit that that's not a real job when you're baking with cockroaches? The second day at Rue 21, and the managers plus other coworkers all went out to lunch together and left me alone in the store. I wasn't able to ring up people yet, and the store was packed. I just walked out. Well, your boss kinda had it coming at that point. I wanted something part-time when I was at uni. I applied at the local cinema chain and got an interview. It was one of those high turnover places that meant if you got an interview there, it was a 95% chance you got a job. The guy on the box office radioed his manager and was told to take me to room 7. We go to room 7 and wait. And wait, and wait. About 25 minutes pass before the manager starts screaming abuse over the radio because we were not in room 2. So off to room 2, we go on the other side of the building. The manager starts trying to turn on the charm, and I basically say if that's how you treat your employees in front of a job candidate, there's no way I'm ever working for you, and ask the other guy to show me out. I'm sure it made no difference to his behavior, but it saved me a lot of potential abuse. See, something that I wish that more people would really understand is that when you go to a job interview, it's not just them interviewing you to see if you're a good fit for their job, but you should also be trying to decide if this job is good for you. I mean, I kind of feel like I need a trial run before jumping into a full-time job. And just like this guy, sometimes you figure out right away that like, oh crap, this is not what I want to be doing, or these are not the people I want to be working with. Cold calling people about injury claims. Have you been injured in the past 3 years? That kind of thing. The thing that really irked me was that all of the people I called in those 20 minutes were polite, said they're not interested, and they were just sitting down for dinner. I realized it was a horrible job, and I was in no way cut out for it. I left after 20 minutes and just walked out the door without a word. Yeah, if you agree to be a spam caller, everyone hates you, and rightfully so. Like if I ever get a call and they say, "Hi, is this Andrew?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Hi, how are you doing today? This is so-and-so." I just hang up. I was 19 and started work at a Lube Pros oil change shop. The manager was a 24-year-old guy who, within the first hour of me working there, bragged about hanging around the trails near a local high school and beating up 14 and 15-year-olds for their money and weed. He also said that if I'm cleaning out a car and I found weed or see pills, I take them and give it to him. He had a racket where he would steal illegal things from people's cars and threaten to call the cops if they didn't let him keep it. Left at the end of my shift, called a corporate number and quit, telling them everything this guy was doing. I drove by the next morning and a cop was questioning him. The place closed a few months later. You know, I may not be an expert on this, but usually if you're doing something that you want to keep secret, you don't want to just go around telling every person you meet about those secrets. I work as a nanny, but when I first got into childcare, I was just babysitting. So it was my first night babysitting for this one family. Things went well, I changed some diapers, put the baby to sleep, and that was about it. The parents come home and are very drunk. They asked me to stay for a little while after they got back, which was weird. Then they offered me, a 16-year-old at the time, a drink. Feeling a little pressure, I took it and just sipped on it. Then the mom got really close to me and says I probably shouldn't be driving home after having a drink. Once again, feeling a little pressured, I was thinking about accepting, so I asked if I'd just be sleeping on the couch. I'll never forget her next words to me. She says, "Oh no, honey, you'll be going to bed with us." I noped out of there so fast. I think I ran to my car, but it was just kind of a panicked blur. Left my purse there and everything. Well, if you were smart, you'd go back the next day demanding like $500 for the babysitting because you got a lot of blackmail on them at that point. I remember going for a marketing job interview. The interview was I had to get on a bus with a group of other people who worked there and go to this really scummy council estate and knock on people's doors and ask them if they wanted to donate to charities and things. It was really, really odd. I was following this guy around for half an hour while he got doors slammed on him over and over. I mentioned, "Man, the pay must be great if this is what you have to deal with all day." He then told me that he wasn't paid a penny. It was purely commission-based. Every person he signed up, he got like 50p. I just laughed and walked off. You know, out of all the jobs I've ever heard of in these stories, this might be the absolute worst. You just get abused all day, every day, and if you're lucky, you might make a few bucks. Like, this job makes panhandling seem glorious. I was interviewed for a contract position at a very small game development company, and they told me that they were looking for someone to help finish up an existing project. Literally, the game looked like it was made in MS Paint, as if they had just hired some random guy off the street and asked them to make some art for them. Granted, it's a mobile game and sold for the standard, 99 cents, so maybe not the worst, but the game itself didn't look engaging at all either. But I figure, worst comes to worst, I could make some money on the side with some low effort work. Then they told me that my pay would be a percentage of the sales. Noped right out of that one. We'll pay you 10% of the revenue. What's 10% of zero? I went into an office for an interview. They said they had several positions available and I wanted to do some admin stuff. Well, after the interview, they told me to get in a van to do the next part of the process. Turns out we drove an hour away so I could shadow one of their door-to-door salespeople. They would ask residents to go into their basements to check their hot water heaters to see if they were eligible to replace them with their company's own. I felt pretty uncomfortable about this, and pretty pissed my whole day was gone doing this. The worst part was the girl I was shadowing spent half the day sitting around in the truck reading magazines and waiting for people to come home from work. I was sort of asking questions about the job, and she got defensive and said, "Well, I decide if you get this job or not." To which I replied, "Yeah, I don't know if I want to do this." But she kept insisting that it was her who decided if I worked. I don't think she understood I meant that I didn't want to do this crap. Friggin' waste of a day. Like, okay, I can understand people who want to work non-traditional jobs, but if you're just wasting your entire day and making almost nothing in return, it's like, what's even the point of doing it at all? Back in the 90s, I worked at a fast food restaurant to supplement my military income. I'll just say it was associated with a king. Lasted all of 30 minutes. During that time, I witnessed an employee puke into the sink used for washing utensils without cleaning it before it was used again. Then another employee dropped a cooked chicken patty on the nasty floor, picked it up and put it on a bun to be served. At that point, I just walked out the door and never to return. I never ate at another fast food place again as a result. I guess, in a way, something good came out of it. You know, if any of you get a fast food ad on this video, please tell me. I think that'd be hilarious. I was at a shop that refurbished train suspension hydraulics. 40% of the guys were missing at least part of a finger. Maintenance guy was missing 4 on one hand and 1.5 on another. Half the guys were high, and the guy training me stormed out halfway through the second day. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna dip out now. You know, you gotta be really committed to a job to be progressively losing fingers and just continue doing it. Once you reach the point where you can't even count on your fingers how many fingers you've lost, that's probably too many. So back in college, I used to work as a part-time nanny. One summer, I landed a really sweet-sounding 40-hour-a-week, Monday through Friday nannying job, looking after a baby and toddler. I was super excited about all the money I was going to make working that many hours, but the weird thing about this job was that the unemployed dad was also going to be at home with me. He was supposed to be spending all his time looking for a job, and I was watching after the kids while the wife was at work. Literally that first week, on day 2 or 3, he starts hinting about his marriage problems and how his wife sleeps on the couch. The next day, he asked me to try out his fancy new massage chair. I reluctantly agreed, and he just stared at me while I laid on this vibrating chair and was like, "Oh yeah, nice, great, thanks." He then offered to give me an actual massage sometime, and maybe I wouldn't mind giving him one too? On Friday afternoon, I went home. I told my parents, who I was living with for the summer, everything, and my mom called the guy and told him I wasn't coming back for the following Monday, or ever. He then sent me a text saying he was disappointed in me. And his poor wife. You know, it's probably best if you're looking for a babysitting job to just sort of stick with people that you know. I mean, I already think it's kind of insane that some people would just go online on like Craigslist or something and just look for somebody to come stay in your house with your kids while you are out all day or all night. I worked at Target for 2 days. On my first day, a coworker warned me another coworker may stab me if I get too close to him or walk behind him. Our job was restocking product on narrow shelves and cramped aisles. I left to work at a casino, which was considerably safer. Yeah, you gotta love when there's somebody that is clearly a hazard, and rather than getting rid of that person, everyone just says, just be careful, stay away from him, he might try to kill you, so, you know, just be careful. I was looking for a sporadic part-time job. I applied at this little catering company that had been around for a while. I showed up for the interview and realized that a rich guy had bought it 2 weeks earlier for his wife to have a hobby. They fired everyone and hired friends' kids to help out. I was literally the only one with cooking or hospitality experience. They get me to help out for a few hours to see if they like me. We get along, and there are a couple of red flags, but the pay is about 50% higher than the going rate. We agree to meet on Sunday to finish up prep for the week and get everything sorted for my role. So I show up 15 minutes early and nobody is there. I waited 30 minutes and said screw it. Since I literally just started, I didn't have her number, but she had mine. She calls the next day at 8 a.m. demanding I don't go to my regular job and get in there to help her out since she's waited for an hour for me. I told her I was there at 2 and waited. She then explodes saying that she owns the business and was with her husband at brunch, so it would have been rude to step out to call me. Then she goes full Amy's Baking Company on me. Goes off on how she fired everyone because the cooks think they knew better than her, but she goes out and eats all the time. How she knows more about restaurants than anyone in the city, and how, as a grateful employee, I should have sat and waited for her to finish her very important brunch. I ended up hanging up on her. They were closed within 3 more weeks. It seems she knew so much about restaurants that she forgot that to own a food service business, you need a food handling certificate, and at least one person with certification. I never really thought about it, but I don't think that going to a lot of restaurants and going out to eat a lot makes you an expert on how to run a restaurant. But anyway, that's all for the horrible work stories. I like to bring these ones to you on a Monday, just to make you feel better about your job, or just maybe encourage you to walk off of your job, whichever is more convenient right now.